Welcome to On Record PR, where we discuss the latest news, insights, and strategies that matter most to law firm leaders. I'm a host, Jennifer Simpson Carr, and today I am joined by our Executive Vice President, Sarah Larson. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning and welcome back.
Thank
It's
you.
Monday, September 15th, and today you and I are chatting about an ongoing challenge that law firm leaders face and a lot of marketing professionals, which is proving the ROI or return on investment of public relations and media relations efforts. So, Gina shared a great article with our team last week. It was published in PR Daily. The title, which I found interesting, was Why Your Best PR Can't Be Measured and Why That's Actually Fine. Something that we probably would title a similar article because
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah,
But to summarize a very well-written article, the author argues that the most valuable PR and communications work that we do cannot be neatly tied to short-term metrics like clicks or conversions, which we hear from law firms all too often. PR is judged by clicks, impressions, media measurements. So many of so many leaders are still really focused on the AVE or advertising value equivalency. So things that look really nice on a spreadsheet or a dashboard, but don't actually reflect the true value of trust building, shaping perception, and creating long-term reputational equity. So as the leader of our PR and media team, what are your thoughts on this article and kind of all of this generally?
well, first of all, it came at a really interesting time because we just within the last couple of weeks had been doing some share of voice reports for a couple of our clients that were interested in tracking those metrics. And when I had the discussion with them, I phrased it as yes, though I mean those metrics are still important. They're still something we can look at, but that they're not the end all be all. um and this article really sort of tied into that, like you can't it's not just about noise, it's not just about mentions, it's not just about how many times people are talking about us. It's really about building trust, and how do you measure trust. So the article kind of outlines other ways that we can think about tying the efforts of a communications campaign back to metrics that they can track. And I think sometimes the disconnect really is between the communication side and the business side, right? And I really wish that in business school they would start talking about, and maybe they are, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to have made it to us quite yet. Start talking about kind of the intangibles and things that you can't measure, because what has happened over the years is we've started to measure things that are easy to measure but aren't necessarily the most impactful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I get it, right? Like, you can't improve what you can't measure. We all, we're all business leaders. We all understand that. But at the same time, you also don't want to focus just on the things that you can measure, because it's harder to quantify the real impactful stuff. And I really liked the example from the story that Dr. Bonner's. Did you read that part?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it was really interesting. She bought a product not because of she liked the product, but she was attracted to the company because of something they had posted on social media about their employees and their employee benefits and how they treat their people, which I thought was fascinating.
And it's interesting that she brought that up, and the author brought that up in the article, because many of the conversations we have, and I know in speaking engagements that I've participated in, we always tell firms that it's great to promote the work you're doing and the awards that you've won, but time and time again, the more humanizing content
Mhm.
is the content that really resonates with viewers.
Mm. Yeah,
So so she's
yeah.
kind of proven that on the consumer side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it made me stop to think about how many times I've been attracted to a company or a product or a service, and what made me interested in it. And a lot of times it's not just the product or the service, it's about that company, because chances are there's lots of other competitors you can choose from. So why do you choose that one? And it's the same thing with law firms. Like, there's a lot of IP lawyers out there. How do you choose the firm that you best want to work with? There has to be some sort of connection there. And sometimes it's hard to measure that.
Yes. Yes, and you brought up, the word trust, which I think, as long as we've been talking about why executives or why individuals choose lawyers, it's because they know, like, and trust them,
Hmm.
right? Those are kind of the
Yeah.
three words that always come up, and these efforts support that trust factor.
Yep.
So the author of this article called, this fascination or this focus on data the attribution trap, where executives are forcing PR professionals or their outside agencies to basically report in order to justify their value. And so providing numbers, dashboards, spreadsheets, kind of all the things we mentioned before. But as we know, thought leadership, as one of kind of the key components of PR and media, can be content, speaking engagements, co-authored pieces, all which are a foundation for reputation, equity, and trust. So, can you talk a little bit about how these pieces build that through consistent publishing, through the market who are seeing these individuals over and over again?
Yeah, sure. So I look at it as every piece of yourself that you share with your audience, whether it's through a press release, whether it's through sponsoring and speaking at a conference, whether it's through an article about a trend in your specific practice area, or challenges facing certain types of your clients. Every piece that you put forward towards your audience is building a picture for your audience of who you are as a firm, of who you are as a team, of what you offer, and of what makes you different, what makes you special. And sometimes that's just that human connection, right? It doesn't always, a lot of lawyers will come to us and say, well, we're good lawyers. Well, that's table stakes at this point. Everybody out there at this point is a good lawyer. What makes you different? Everything that you put out there helps describe that difference to your audience. So it all to me, it all plays together. It's all kind of part of the same whole.
So we're going to take a break for our sponsor message here. So when we get back, we'll talk about how we recommend law firms and law firm leaders measuring success of what all of these efforts lead to.
This episode is brought to you by Furia Rubel Communications, a public relations and marketing agency serving law firms and businesses worldwide. With an expert team positioned throughout the U.S. and supported by an international faculty, Furia Rubel enhances our clients' brands through integrated communications by providing expert guidance in crisis management and high-profile litigation, protecting brand and reputation, and supporting internal marketing teams. To learn more, visit furiarubel.com.
Okay, Sarah. So we're back from our sponsor message, and something we've touched on is that lawyers can be quoted in the Wall Street Journal pretty consistently. They can be asked to speak at industry events, but again, that doesn't translate to billable hours tomorrow. It doesn't translate to numbers on a dashboard. So how can law firm leaders, or so what can law firm leaders start to measure in order to show the impact of the great work that PR and media is doing for the firm?
Sure. There are metrics that we can track. Sometimes, though, in the end, it comes down to kind of what I call your gut, but your gut instinct is really a combination of tangible and intangible factors. So one of the things that we look at is brand lift over time. Are we seeing improved awareness and consideration over a period of time? The key word there is time. Like, this stuff doesn't happen within a week or a month or 6 months, or honestly, sometimes even a year or two. Like, these are long-term efforts. They're not short-term lists. Who do you want to be? Who do you want your audience to think you are? And how do you put that out to your market consistently over a period of time? So getting people to be a little more patient is an eternal challenge I think, in our entire country, much less just our industry.
So
But so
can I make a
yeah,
comment about that? Because
yeah, of course.
we work with clients on all ranges of spectrum, right? Some firms have really big in-house teams, and we're their PR and media experts. And some firms have much smaller departments. They could be a boutique that just started up, or this is their first time working, with a more sophisticated agency, and having that type of support. And when you said that, what came to mind is us working with a firm that started about a year ago. And we usually ask, what does success look like to you? If we were to have coffee in a year, what would that look like? And the firm said, in a year, we would love to hear from clients, wow, we're seeing great work in the news about your firm. And we just had that touch base, and that was their metric success. They actually said to us, we've achieved it. We are now going to events. We're getting calls from clients saying, hey, we just saw your partners in the news, or we just saw that great news about a matter. So I think to kind of go back to what you said about gut, it is a gut feeling, but also hearing that validation from people who you consider really important stakeholders for your firm, is such a great way to measure how this impact is unfolding.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that to kind of tie into that and play off it, one of the other things that we ask our firms to measure really is executive visibility. Like, are your leaders being invited to speak places? Are they, once we try to establish a relationship with a news organization that's following these types of matters, it's okay if the reporters call you directly. To me, that's a win. Like, we introduced you to them. I was a reporter for almost 20 years. They don't want to have to go through a PR person every single time. But, if we introduce them and we set up that relationship and they call directly to us, that's also a win. Like, it doesn't need to come through us. But is your executive getting asked to publish things somewhere? All of those are like numbers that you can track that lead to a picture of increased visibility for the people who are leading the firm.
So something that comes to mind for me is the crisis piece. You and Gina lead our crisis and litigations comms team. And when we talk about things that can't be measured, the benefit of the doubt to me is also a part of this conversation, right? So, we all have relationships where if we were hear something that really just seemed like out of left field or unlike that person, they've built up a reputation with us individually that we would give them the benefit of the doubt. So how does that crisis and kind of incident piece tie into all of this?
Absolutely. To me, I think of it like a bank. If you've been putting into your reputation bank over time, then when a crisis happens, you have something to draw on. But if you're not investing in those relationships, in that public awareness, in that visibility, if you're only doing that when the spotlight is on you for something negative, nobody has a reason to give you the benefit of the doubt because you haven't built that relationship bank yet. You haven't built that trust. So, one of the goals when we start working with a firm who comes to us in crisis is to try to analyze, okay, what are your relationships like already with the various players? How can we take a look at what your attributes are that they trust and just speak plainly to those issues, plainly, honestly, transparently. I mean, people can smell a falsehood. I almost said a bad word, sorry, from miles away, right? I mean, my biggest thing with crisis is you have to be open, you have to be transparent, but you also have to do the work ahead of time.
That's a great point. I love the bank analogy.
Yeah.
As somebody who's visual, it resonates with me.
From the reporter side, that one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I started out as a reporter was the worst time to try to get to know the fire chief is during the middle of a fire. Like, you want to get to build those relationships ahead of time, so when something does catch fire, you can put it out without sustaining long-term damage or, goodness forbid, watching the whole thing burn to the ground.
So we've talked a lot about metrics, dashboards, spreadsheets, reporting. What's the key takeaway? What's the message for law firm leaders from this conversation?
Take a look not just at the clicks and the click-throughs, as more of our life ends up online, for better or worse, and sometimes lately I think it's worse. There's plenty of data to track that. But in addition to that, like, how many articles are you writing? How many interviews did you have that week, whether it came to fruition or not. Like, don't just look at the successes. How many relationships did you start building, or did we help you start building? There are other things to look at that measure almost kind of the backstage effect of the work that we're doing to lay that foundation, not just what actually ends up online. And then when you do look at those numbers, look at the metrics, look at the click-throughs, not just how many are there, but who's reading them. I would much rather have one of my clients placed in, a really exclusive magazine with a very small readership, but that readership is all decision makers. It's all the people that they want to get in front of. It doesn't do you any good to have a story that goes viral to an audience that probably will never need you and doesn't have a reason to reach out. It might make you feel good to get, a lot of news, but I'd much rather have the audience be smaller, but more, as we say, more qualified, if that makes sense.
It's a great point. And again, as someone who's visual, I see a lot of these posts mainly on Instagram type platforms, but they'll actually say, oh, you only got 250 likes, and it'll show a visual image of a room of 250 people to remind us as viewers that 250 people is actually a fairly significant number. And to your point, if it's the right 250 people, it's much more meaningful than 25,000.
Right. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so thank you so much for tuning into the conversation today. As a leader at your firm, we challenge you to reframe the conversation. Start to talk internally about how PR is building trust for your firm, shaping the perception of your firm, creating that long-term bank of equity and positivity that Sarah mentioned. While those things can't show up on a dashboard, they're definitely very important to your firm and to your executives. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it, subscribe to the show, consider leaving a review. Please continue to send us your feedback and topic ideas at podcast@furiaruble.com, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
On Record PR is produced by Jennifer Simpson Carr and Matt Henderson, with support from the team at Furia Ruble Communications. This episode is edited by Isabel Horan and Christian Yamula. Visit www.onrecordpr.com for resources and more information.